It's the Jake and Ben Show. 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 Oh.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Jake and Ben Show. I'm Jake, and I'm here with
Ben. Hey.
All right. Do you want to run down what we're gonna talk about?
Yeah. Okay. So we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We're gonna start off with trailers, go into some news. We got some funky reviews, and we got some questions. So it's gonna be a nice jammed pack show. Hopefully, we can keep it contained.
Yeah. This is something I should ask you beforehand. But do you have a time limit? Do you have to go somewhere soon, or what?
I do not. Yeah. We should be good. We should be good to roll it.
Okay, so if this becomes a long boy, that's all right?
That is all right. I've got no plans. I am a loner.
Cool. All right, let's get her going then.
All right, well, you know what we should talk about first is, before we get to trailers, is our new Twitter page that just went up yesterday. We got a Facebook group. I'm not sure if you want to, tell them more about it.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, forgot about that. We are going to be taking questions and having a questions and comments and response thing at the end of every episode. So we're plugging it up front for those who don't make it to the end. So if you have a question, concern, comment, or anything you want us to respond to or answer, follow us on Twitter or like our Facebook page at Jake and Ben Show. Or you can drop a comment on SoundCloud or YouTube. And follow us there as well. And we'll take all those questions and answer them for the end of the show, and then you can keep up to date with whatever we're saying or whatever we got going on those social media platforms.
Yeah. All right, then let's get into it. We can talk about trailers. Now, let's start off with Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. I'll say my quick thoughts on it. I don't care about it. From the first trailer, I was just, it's all right. And then I seen the second one, I was, maybe we'll get some more. Maybe I'm going to really get into it. Maybe I'm going to love this. And yeah, it's, to me, it was free. Like, again, I'm just going to judge the trailer. The movie could come out and it could be awesome. And that's all right. But for trailers, I'm not that interested. What about you?
I felt that way the first trailer, but this one, I like it a lot more. They're playing up that horror angle that they didn't. Well, they said a while back. They said that this one's going to be more horror than the first one, and that first trailer they released didn't really feel like that, but this one does. So I'm more excited. I still don't really care. I think Jurassic World, the first one, was serviceable, but nothing beyond that. So I mean, I'm not. This trailer gets me more interested, but I'm still not over the moon about it.
Yeah, I'm definitely not over the moon. I think I've made that clear. I mean, hopefully it'll at least be a good popcorn movie. I don't have high hopes, but again, I'll go into it with an open mind when I see it. I don't have much more to say, so I think we should move on to. So the next three we're gonna talk about are juicy for me, and we'll go to Deadpool 2 first. I want to hear your thoughts before I say anything.
The Deadpool 2 one. This is the Meet Cable one, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I just watched it again briefly before we went on here. I think it looks great. I'm sure this movie's going to be just as good, if not better, than the first one. I have high hopes for it, and I think Josh Brolin as Cable looks incredible. They're very self-aware and breaking the fourth wall again. The green arm gag at the beginning was really clever and really fun. I loved that. The bit at the end where he comments on the lazy writing was also really funny. So yeah, no, definitely excited for this one.
I am charged up for this movie, dude. I love them. We can say it the green arm gag, but I like to think of it as the mustache gag.
More
making fun of Henry Cavill's digitally removed mustache in Justice League. I don't have much bad things to say about this. I am charged up. One thing that surprised me. Okay, I'm watching it. First time I see it, when there's the shot of him in what looks like an airplane. And you see Domino and then two other people. When I first seen the guy on what would be our left when we're looking at it, his left, in Deadpool's perspective, I was like, okay, whatever. I don't know who these people are. And then I watch it again, and then I pause it. I'm like, wait a minute. Is that Terry Crews?
Yeah.
Terry Crews in this movie, and I found it surprising in today's day and age, and it might not be him, but it looks exactly like him.
It's him. It's
but
him.
In our day and age, you hear most casting and who's going to be in a movie way beforehand, and I heard mostly everybody that was in this. So when I seen him, I was like, hey, it's a little cool surprise. But yeah, it looks hilarious. It looks like they're stepping up the action game, which is something I expected with the director David Leitch, who was one of the 2 directors of John Wick. It looks like it's sticking to the humor, and it looks like it's upping the ante on action. So I am charged up for this movie.
Yeah, it looks bigger and louder than the first one, just from the trailer. I'm not sure. I remember Ryan Reynolds if I'm getting this correctly, didn't want a bigger budget. He wanted to do the same kind of style as the first one. Is that correct?
That was the story, is that Tim Miller wanted to up the ante, and Ryan Reynolds wanted to keep it more in the same vein as the first one.
I don't know if they did up the budget or what's going on, but it feels like they did, but not in a bad way. It looks and feels like the first one. Well enough.
I was reading something the other day, and the creator of Deadpool was saying that for a comparison of what Deadpool 2 is, it's a lot like Aliens, when James Cameron came in and it just became a bigger thing than what was the first one. It became a little bit more actiony than the first one.
I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
That's all I know from me.
Yeah, that's all from me. I mean, there's more we could say, but there's a lot we got to talk about. The next trailer we will talk about is Venom. When I first watched the Venom trailer, I was like, okay, I like what I'm seeing. However, you could have showed me the suit. And then I watched it a second time. I think if we're 8 months out from the movie, it's very early to see a trailer. I'm fine that they didn't show the suit. I like what it looks. It looks like they took a page out of Fox's, what Fox is doing, where they try to do different stuff. And Venom definitely looks different. It doesn't look like the same old comic book movie. And when I heard that they were going to do Venom without potentially Spider-Man in there, I want it to be different. So definitely they've got me even hooked more than I didn't care about it until you tell me Tom Hardy's in the movie, and then more of the cast is revealed. And then they say it's going to be more of a horror type movie. And then seeing the trailer, it looks like a horror sci-fi film than a comic book film. And I ate it up the second time I watched the trailer. What do you have to say about it?
I think for what you just said at the end there, the horror sci-fi or whatever angle is the reason why the not showing the suit didn't bother me. I'm not even like a huge Venom fan. I think the character is interesting. I think he looks interesting too. But I wasn't offended that we did not see the suit. So I mean, the trailer as a whole for a movie, you just take the name Venom off it, and I mean, I don't think people will be so upset. I think it looks like a solid, great movie, and Tom Hardy's one of the best actors today, living today, I believe he is, and yeah, I'm excited for that reason alone. We're 8 months away, so I don't know what people are expecting. Like you don't need to see the suit or Venom. So yeah, it looks great.
Speaking on Tom Hardy being one of the best actors today, one of the other reasons why I did get more excited for this movie when I heard he came on board is because he is apparently known to be picky for what script he chooses. So hearing that, and also him being a great actor when he was attached, and obviously is in the movie now, really got me excited. And then seeing this, definitely more so. And I totally agree on the suit thing. Just the first time when I seen it, I was like, you could have showed us, but then thinking, sitting back and watching it a second time, you really didn't need it, and especially for what they were showing us and what the movie looks to be. You really didn't need to see it, especially 8 months out. Now, we can move on to the juicy one, is Solo, a Star Wars story. Now, last week when we did this, we were talking about the Superbowl and trailers that might be there. And one of the things I thought might happen is we see a quick TV spot of Solo on the Superbowl. And then I think at the time it was confirmed that the Solo full trailer would drop on the Monday on Good Morning America. I thought that the spot was going to be very similar to what the trailer was going to be, which I know a lot of people are saying, well, not a lot, a few people I've heard say that they're two totally different trailers, and they kind of are, but kind of aren't. Now, I do think it's a good thing. I did like that. Now, I want to hear your thoughts before I say my thoughts on the trailer.
I'm kind of confused. I don't believe I saw the TV spot. I think I just saw the trailer that they put up on YouTube.
Okay, yeah. So on the Super Bowl, they put out a 45-second TV spot. Well, it was around 45 seconds. And if you want, I can talk about that, and then you can watch it, and then I can go on to the trailer, or we can just talk about the trailer.
Well, it depends. Is it very different?
I'll tell you the tone of it. It starts off with Han Solo. He's saying that he wants to be a pilot and he's going to be the best in the galaxy, similar to the line in the full trailer, except it's delivered in a different way, and it shows more of the Imperial side of things. It has a Rogue One look to it, and it was him it looks like, and would be pulled from the old EU, would be Han Solo joining the Empire and wanting to be a pilot. So that's what it shows. It is quite different from the full trailer, but there's some similar shots to it. I've only
seen the TV spot.
You've only seen the TV spot?
I've only seen the TV spot.
Okay, so all right. This is going to be interesting because you got to see the full trailer. Now, how do you want to go about this?
Oh, shit. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I didn't think... Oh, man.
Because, now we can do essentially, a true trailer reaction. Would you want to do that? Is there any copyright thing saying that we can't have audio? We can have audio and you react to it, right?
I don't think we can take the audio from the trailer. I don't know.
All right.
I can just watch it right now if you want to talk about it, or I can respond to things.
Yeah. Well, would you be able to watch it and have headphones in and react to it while you watch it?
Yeah, I can do that right now.
All right.
It's
then
queued up.
I will set the stage of me being quiet, and I want to hear you react to this trailer, and then we can talk about it.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
I'll try my best to say things while watching it. That can be difficult. So I'll try and not make really awkward silence. But here we go. All right, it's starting. And it starts the same way as the TV spot with all the switches. Lucasfilm logo.
Yeah.
He's got the look for sure. It looks really Rogue One-y for sure. Even this does. Just like the teaser.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same shot from the teaser. Oh man, how did I miss this? It looks fucking sweet.
How did you miss this?
Woody Harrelson is a beauty. Oh, I'm so excited for Donald Glover. It's probably what I'm excited about the most. Oh, Chewie's there. Huh. Who's that actress? Why do I recognize her? What's her name?
That is Daenerys Targaryen.
Oh, right. It's Emilia Clarke. Okay. Huh. He doesn't talk much, eh? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about his voice. He's got the look, but yeah, I think that's all. Yeah. Okay. This video I'm watching is playing. He's playing the TV spot after it.
All right. So I want to hear your thoughts after watching it for the first time.
It does look very much like Rogue One, where it's a lot of gray. There's a lot of gray. It looks really good. I'm really excited for Donald Glover. I didn't know Emilia Clarke was in this movie, so that's exciting.
Yes.
I don't know how I feel about the small sample size of him speaking we got, but it's like he had 3 or 4 lines in it. It just didn't jump out to me it didn't feel like Han Solo. That's all right. I think visually it looks
I feel
great.
the opposite. Again, it is a small sample size, but for the sample size we got, when I'm looking at it, for me, I already have the disconnect, as I know this isn't Harrison Ford, and I'm not looking for Harrison Ford, nor am I looking for a Harrison Ford impersonation. I feel from the sample size we got, which could totally change when we see the full movie, but just from the sample sizes, I think he's got down the character of Han Solo, and I do think he's got the sound. And again, it is a small sample size, but from what I've seen, I do believe that is Han Solo.
Okay, it's almost hard to even judge it from what we have, so maybe I'm being unfair, but yeah, I didn't. Maybe I'm looking too much for just a Han Solo impression, because the way I imagine watching this is in with this right connected to Star Wars. So bridging that gap, it just feels strange. I don't know.
And one thing is that we don't know the exact time period. So it's not like Rogue One. When we seen Rogue One, we assumed it would end and it's going to follow up with their Star Wars right after. We don't know that if when Solo ends, it's going to go right into Star Wars. I don't think it will. And if it doesn't, it's also not going to be as big of a like, oh, whoa, what the heck?
Yeah, that's true. I guess because I'm just assuming that this is closer to Star Wars than it probably is.
Yeah, well, it's definitely close to it. I just don't think it's as close as Rogue One, which is like minutes away.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. No, I think it looks good. I'm still hesitant just because I don't really want this movie. And the whole director thing, I think Ron Howard is an uninspired choice. But I mean, it's just like getting the ship back on course. That's all he was. So I don't know. We'll see. It looks really good.
Yeah, again, if you listen to what I said, I think a week ago, it wasn't, when you say it's not a movie you're asking for, I don't ask for any movie. There's ones I'd like to see, but it was one where if there was like 10 movies here and they were like, hey, which one would you want? I'm not going to go to Han Solo first. With that being said, seeing the TV spot and the trailer, I am charged up. I still don't think it's going to be one of the greatest ones, and I'm not expecting it to. It doesn't have to be. I think it's going to be a fun adventure, and that's what I'm expecting. That's what I hope it is. And from the trailer, it lent to that. It looks like a fun adventure. Woody Harrelson saying, hey, I got a mission. Well, I want to see that mission. It's going to be when people say they don't want to know Han's whole backstory. We're not going to see Han from out of the womb. What I think would be cool is when we watch Empire, like similar to when we talked about Rogue One and other people, is you want Rogue One, regardless if you think it's a great movie or not, you want it to really tie into Star Wars, and you don't want it to take away from Star Wars. You want it to add on to it. I think they accomplished that. Now, when I watch Empire and I see Han, Leia, Chewie, they get to Bespin, Cloud City, and then Chewie, and Han says to Chewie, like, that was a long time ago. I'm sure, he's over it. I want to see that. I want to be able to see that in Solo and be like, and when I watch Empire, yeah, that's what he's talking about. I want to be able to, get that stuff out of it. And I think we will. I like the look of everything. And one thing also that I was excited for was, I should know his name, especially saying I'm excited for it, but I forget it. The director of photography for Arrival, he's the cinematographer for Solo, which I thought was, hey, that's a good choice. And I think it looks like it's shot beautifully. One of my favorite shots of it is when Solo, he reaches for his blaster, and then you see just the shot of the blaster, and then whoever it is in front of him, that beautiful shot. It looks like and also other things we heard that it's going to have like a Western feel to it, somewhat. It captured the vibe in the trailer, so I'm not gonna go too crazy, but I am very excited now seeing the trailer. Yeah, I was apprehensive before, and now I'm excited, and I want to see this movie.
Yeah, no, I want to see the movie. And the Arrival cinematographer thing, it gets me more excited, I guess. But like I said before, it's got the look. It looks excellent, just like visually. So I don't know. I have my pros, I have my cons, so we'll see. I'm definitely going to see it. So
one little tidbit I read about the other day, and you may not care for this. Some people might not. I thought it was, a nice little thing. There was, I forget what magazine, I think it was Entertainment Weekly. They came out with a whole Solo thing, and there were interviews with Emilia Clarke, with Alden Ehrenreich, Donald Glover, Ron Howard, Kathleen Kennedy, and one of the things I got out of it was, I believe it was Ron Howard and Kathleen Kennedy. They were talking about when Ron came on for his first day of shooting, that George Lucas came for a set visit, and it was supposed to just a set visit. He comes on for a little bit, and that he ended up staying there for like 5 hours. And when they were shooting a shot on the Falcon, George was like, "Hey, why doesn't Han do this?" And then Ron was like, "Hey, yeah, why don't we do that?" And it was a nice little thing of George, I mean, it was a small little thing, but, he did something on the set of Solo, and I thought that was a nice little story. I know some people like it, some people be like, I don't give a fuck, but I thought it was a nice story.
I mean, I don't really give a fuck because it's such a minor thing. I mean, like, it's not going to make or break the movie if George Lucas said one thing that he should do, but, I mean, it's kind of cute, I guess.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice little story. Yeah, heartwarming.
It's a fun story.
Yeah. All right. I mean, there's a lot we could say here. There's a lot we can go into, but we do have other stuff to get to. So would you want to move on to some little news bits?
Yeah, I think we said all we needed to for Solo and the other trailers. So yeah, we can go into the news.
All right. We'll go into the big one. We won't bury the lead here. Is that I believe it was a few days ago, might even be close to a week now, is that the Game of Thrones showrunners, Benioff and Weiss, messing up their names already, will be writing and producing a series of Star Wars movies apart from the Rian Johnson trilogy and the saga stories. Well, stories, the saga films. How do you feel about that before I say any thoughts? Does it get you, are you excited? Are you questioning things? Or what is it? How does this impact you as a fan of Star Wars?
It excites me because they're Game of Thrones and Star Wars, or Game of Thrones and Disney even don't mesh well, just in my head, of course, for obvious reasons. However, I think Game of Thrones is the best show ever made.
I do agree.
So, I mean, it's kind of slacked just a little bit last season. I don't know. A lot of people do blame those two writers because they don't have George R.R. Martin's material to work from. So I imagine some people could be hesitant because they think they've just been writing the coattails of George R.R. Martin. But I don't buy into that. I think they both have a unique voice, and I'm really excited to see what they do bring to Star Wars. So yeah, definitely excited about it. I'm not over the moon again. I haven't been over the moon about anything we've talked about today, so I've just kind of been middle of the road, but I'm definitely excited for it.
This story is one of the things that I wouldn't say I'm over the moon by, but I'm close to it. There's a few questions I have with it, but I'll start off with is that Star Wars and Game of Thrones, I think those two, it is very, obviously subject material. It's different. However, there have been Star Wars fans and fans in general that just say, hey, what if Star Wars were to do something similar to Game of Thrones? And I thought maybe they'll try to tackle something like that with the Disney streaming service when it comes out in 2019. Bob Iger has already said that they will be doing a television series. In fact, he said they're looking into doing multiple. I assume one of those would be animated, but they already said one will be live action. Now, we know it's not going to be that what they're doing because it said films. I'm not even going to go into much speculation of what it might be because, what do we know? It could be anything. I happen to maybe lean more towards Old Republic stuff, but not anything, not like a Knights of the Old Republic, just more time period there. I do think it is a strong get to get guys like these. And a key thing in there, they are writing and producing. So they're not going to be directing. And hey, maybe they'll end up directing one, but I only mention that because I don't know much about this, but I have heard I've heard people mention there was somewhat of a backlash to it because I don't know if you want to get into this now, but I'm not sure if you even heard anything about this. I didn't even until a few days ago, was that there was some backlash that, oh, Disney's just hiring white writers and how bad because they could have hired somebody in diversity, which I mentioned that because we talked about diversity in film last week. I'll ask you, have you heard anything about that?
I have not heard anything about that. However, I would just say what I usually say is just hire the best person for the job. Yeah. If it's two white men or if it's two black men, it's two Asian men, it's two Asian women, it's two black women, it's two white women. Doesn't matter. You should always hire what's best for the job. And if you limit yourself to only hiring women or only hiring black people, then you cut out a large chunk of that person's competition and you make it so they don't really earn it because they're not really fighting against the whole population. They're fighting against a select few group of people. They're only fighting against a percentage. So I think whoever's best for the job should get it. And no matter who it is, I trust Disney that they're making the right choice. So yeah, that's really all there is to say about that.
Yeah,
whoever gets it should earn it.
Yeah. I won't go too much into the story because I don't think there's much of a story there. I think if you go towards Backlash, I think you may be I don't want to say, I think you might be blinded if you tend to think that of this story, because I will say, I think Lucasfilm has been doing a good job of trying to be diverse as of now.
Yeah.
And I do think that
go ahead.
This does open the door, which is why I mentioned they are writing and producing, because it does open the door for anybody, white, Asian, black, Hispanic, whoever, that there is going to be a series of movies. Now, that is, if the first one bombs, there might not be a series, but first one's pretty good, great. There's going to be a series of films, and then opens the door for a bunch of directors to direct these films. So, which is why I think it's key for people to realize they are writing and producing, not directing, these films. So it is open. Now, one other thing, this is the more question part I have to it, is Star Wars right now, it's one a year. There was talk, and it wasn't confirmed by Lucasfilm, but there was a story, I think it was the Hollywood Reporter, saying that they were going full force with the Kenobi movie and that they got a director. They were looking at a director, and the story pretty much said he was hired, but then there was nothing confirmed from Lucasfilm. Now, the questions I have is that even going to be something now? Is there even going to be any more Star Wars stories for a while? Because there was this Rian Johnson trilogy announced. So there's 3 movies there. You have a series of Star Wars movies going to be written and produced by Benioff and Weiss. How many is that going to be? 4, 5, 6? Yeah, and then we still have episode 9 to come out. I'm curious to see what is going to happen. Like, will we have the Kenobi movie in 2020? Or is Rian Johnson going to be able to go ahead with the first movie of the trilogy by 2020? I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Is there going to be a year break? Are we going to move to 2 movies a year? I think there are a lot of questions to be asked now that these guys have been hired to do this, but I don't think they're bad questions. I think they're good questions, and they'll be answered in time.
Yeah, they're definitely good questions, especially for someone who loves Star Wars, but I mean, loves it to the point where they're fine being completely saturated in it. Because I think I would like my Star Wars not so in my face. Like The Force Awakens was special because it was the first Star Wars movie in 10 years or whatever, and you can really feel how special it is. But now we get Star Wars films every year, and we're constantly getting news about how there's going to be more. So I think it's good news for those who want Star Wars all the time. But saying that, I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do. They have to do more than 1 film a year, right? With all these announcements, either that or they're going to fall through, because you have I don't know, because like you were saying, are they going to get rid of the Star Wars story things and make room for David and DB, or are they gonna make room for Rian Johnson's trilogy? Something has to fall through, or they're gonna have to bump up how many films they put out every year, or it's just we're gonna see these announcements actually come to fruition many years down the line.
Yeah, these movies. Okay, before I address that stuff, there's one more question I have, is with the saga films, which those ones, to compare something now, they would be, I guess, the Avengers of the MCU, the big one. I would assume that, because I know Kathleen Kennedy came out and said that after the saga films, they might go into like in episode 10, 11, 12, maybe do more stuff with Rey or whatever happens with the outcome of 9. I'm curious, and I hope this is the case. I hope that they do take a long break with the saga films. Now, it doesn't have to be 10 years. It could just be 4 or 5. But I would like to see a break. You get Ryan's trilogy, at least the first movie there, maybe 1 movie by David and DB, and you get it going. Now, with the way they release, I would think it would, if they don't move to 2 a year, I think it would just be what's happening now. You'd get one of Ryan's movies in the trilogy. You get one of David and DB's. Or they might even just, and I'm curious to see, since what Ryan's doing, he wants to write and direct the first one, but write the whole trilogy. He's going to map out the whole trilogy before they even shoot. So I'm curious if they would do something like Lord of the Rings and just shoot it back to back and then release those year after year. So these are questions there. We'll have them answered soon, and I'm looking forward to the answers. These are not, for me, these aren't questions that worry me as a hardcore Star Wars fans. I can see how some people are like, how much is there going to be? But I do look at something like the MCU as we're coming up to 10 years, and they have moved to 3 movies a year, and they're still doing well. Now, regardless if you love them or hate them, they're still making a lot of money. The third Thor movie made the most out of the trilogy. Spider-Man Homecoming, that was the third reboot. It was the highest grossing superhero movie of 2017. You have Logan, which made the most out of the Wolverine trilogy. So I think there will be some people that will be like, I need a break from Star Wars, but I don't think it's going to... I don't think it's going to die down.
Yeah, I don't think Star Wars is going to stop making money. I just think when I compare my excitement for a Star Wars film and my excitement for an MCU film, I don't want the excitement for the Star Wars film to go down to that level of excitement for MCU. Because I mean, like all year I look forward to a Star Wars movie, and it's like something that's really exciting for me. But MCU movies, like, I do get excited for them more than just like, you know, your casual movie. But
what about the Avengers? When an Avengers movie comes out, do you get really like charged up for it? Now, not to say on Star Wars level, but would you say you get more charged up for an Avengers film than? And I know last week you were saying you do lean more towards like a Doctor Strange and Ant-Man than something like Civil War. But like for me personally, when an Avengers movie comes out, especially Infinity War this year, I am charged up for it. Now, my excitement level isn't to like a saga film, but it's charged up. As why I say this is that if you wait like 4 or 5 years for the saga film, and the saga film is your one movie where, yeah, I'm really excited for that, and maybe the Ryan trilogy or the David and DB ones are more like the maybe like the Doctor Strange of the Star Wars franchise.
Well, I've been around for how many Star Wars movies? Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rogue One, and I wasn't really following the MCU for the first Avengers, so you would compare Age of Ultron to Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, I guess would be the fair comparison that you're looking for. And
see,
I
maybe more say the first Avengers, only because when you get the second, like to me, an Age of Ultron, if you're going to compare those, I would have to put it more towards The Last Jedi, only because the thing with the Avengers, that's one of the first, like, that's like, oh my God, you're getting an Avengers movie. And even if you weren't following it at that time, if you just look at other people and the culture around it, I would put the culture around that more where The Force Awakens is, because you have 10 years off.
Yeah,
and then
I agree. Okay,
it's close to 40 years, and Harrison Ford's back. Mark Hamill's going to be in it. Carrie Fisher's there. So I'd put it more towards the first Avengers.
Okay, so if I'm comparing The Last Jedi to Age of Ultron, which I feel like is the fair comparison for me, because I wasn't really into the whole MCU at all for the first Avengers. I caught it on video on demand or something afterwards, so it wouldn't be fair to compare The Force Awakens to the Avengers, just for me. But I'm sure for other film fans it would be. But yeah, if we're looking at The Last Jedi to Age of Ultron, The Last Jedi I was far more excited for. And that was even more recently too. So since 2014 when Age of Ultron came out, my excitement levels for MCU movies has dipped just because of the saturation of it. Last Jedi just came out in December and I was still really excited for it. So I think having one film a year, although MCU movies make so much money, having one film a year just feels way more special just for fans of the franchise. But it's to each his own, right? Like you could love getting you could ask for 4 or 5 Star Wars films a year and be happy. So I mean, it depends on the person. Me, I think I like it. I like it special. Just end the year with a Star Wars film. It's something I can look forward to all year. So.
Yeah, well, with all that being said, would I prefer one a year? I would, but I wouldn't be opposed to 2 a year. But with that being said, before I would commit to 2 a year, I would like to see what the product is, like a first Ryan film or a first David and DB or whatever it is, before I can really say, like, yeah, I could really get into this. I'll pose one question before we move on. Out of excitement level, what do you think, for you personally, are you more excited for? Rian Johnson's trilogy or David and DB's series of movies?
Probably Rian Johnson's trilogy. just because he's directing the first one. So I already know who's directing it. D&D, they're writing and producing it, but I still don't know who's directing it. And I find I put a lot of weight in who's directing it. So I guess just for that reason alone, it would be Ryan's trilogy. But then again, it's not by a big margin, and I could take them both.
Yeah. I would. For me, I would lean definitely to the Rian Johnson trilogy. I did love The Last Jedi. If you've listened to our previous two, you know that. And I think Ryan, with what he wants to do with this and how he pitched it to Kathleen Kennedy, let's do something that is not part of the saga film, not a part of anybody else. We're going to meet new characters and a new world. I think Rian Johnson, not to say unshackled, because that may sound weird for some people, especially for people who didn't like The Last Jedi. It definitely has me really excited to see what he does, and especially that he is planning it all out before they even shoot the first one of what the trilogy is going to be about. Do you have anything to add, or do you want to move on to the next news piece with news? The news piece, not peach. Peaches and pieces are two very different things.
We can move on to the next news peach after I just comment on. You made a point about taking about 5 to 10 year break from the saga, like the main episodic series, and I'm down for that. I think that's a unique idea. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say, and I'm cool to move on.
All right. Well, now our next news peach. We'll just roll with peach now for news pieces. It's going to be smaller. It is David Leitch, the director of the upcoming Deadpool 2. He was one of the directors of John Wick, and he directed Atomic Blonde last year. Is the frontrunner to direct the Fast and Furious spin-off movie starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Jason Statham. I know you're not that excited about this, but hear me out. I didn't like The Fate of the Furious at all. Now, if I'm going to look at it and say, hey, what's something I'm going to pick out there that I like? It's the dynamic between The Rock and Jason Statham. I thought it was a cool, dynamic between the two. And I think you put David Leitch in there, who is, so far, from what I've seen of him directing, is he's great with action. What is Fast and Furious these days? It's action. I think that he would be a good pick if he is director for this movie, and it does get me excited for a franchise I don't care anything about these days. And I'd be really charged up to see a David Leitch directed spin-off movie starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Jason Statham. The Rock, I don't think there's much of an argument. He is, I would say, the biggest star in the world right now for movies. I mean, look at what Jumanji did. It made a shitload of money, which how many people thought it would make as much as it did? It's over 800 million now, I believe. It's made a lot of money. And this, it's a small story, but I am excited for it. What about you?
I couldn't give less of a shit about this. Just because it's a director from Deadpool 2, which we haven't seen. He's half the crew behind the directing crew behind John Wick. I have seen one Fast and Furious movie in my life. It was Fate of the Furious, and I fell asleep. I think that movie's trash. I don't care. I like The Rock, and I mean, that's like the only thing I care about is The Rock and in this whole situation. So I hope it's good, just because I hope every movie's good, and I hope it turns out being a good choice. But as far as my interest or excitement in this story, it's very minimal.
All right. Well, I'll just say one other thing is that since there is not that much to judge, I was one of the people who really liked Atomic Blonde. I thought it was it wasn't a great film, but I really liked it. So I do think he could add a nice a juice or whatever car masculine reference you can make to a Fast and Furious movie. I think he could definitely boost that franchise, which I know it's a spinoff, not one of the Fast and Furious movies, but for me, I'm excited for it if it does happen. Now,
that's fair. I regret not seeing Atomic Blonde. I wish I had seen that. Maybe I might be more excited, but I never got to it, and damn it, I want to see it. So maybe I'll catch it soon.
All right, now the next story is one that it does intrigue me. It's Joaquin Phoenix is in talks to play the Joker, and the standalone movie directed by Todd Phillips and executive produced by Martin Scorsese. Now, executive produced by Martin Scorsese, I mean, I know that's been talked about and that's what everybody leads with, but like, is that confirmed? I thought it
believe
was,
so,
and
but
then I
it's
read
also,
something.
It means nothing to me.
Yeah. Anyways, what intrigues me with this is this whole movie idea. I was like, whatever. I guess I'll contradict myself a bit with the Han Solo stuff, because it leads into this is where when people say, I don't need to see, Han Solo's backstory, in my look, it's like, you're not going to see him from the womb. You're not going to know everything. But then I go to this is, if it's a Joker standalone origin movie without the Batman, I guess you can do stuff with it. But I didn't really care too much. And then you say Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker. That's what intrigues me. Is I did get intrigued by Martin Scorsese, but as you say, executive producer, what does that really mean? It doesn't really mean much. Todd Phillips, okay, all right. But what gets me intrigued by this is Joaquin Phoenix. Now, I wasn't much of a fan of Jared Leto. We didn't see much of him, so I'm not going to unfairly judge him too much. But I didn't like what was done in Suicide Squad. And I know this is apart from the DCEU or whatever you want to call it now. Joaquin Phoenix is a choice that it's like, hey, I think that guy could be a great Joker. However, when Jared Leto was announced as the Joker, I also did think he'd be a great Joker. For some people, he was. For me, he wasn't. How does this story hit you?
Yeah, like I was saying before, Martin Scorsese as executive producer means nothing to me. He could just give someone's phone number, or he could have creative say. You don't really know what that title means, so that's nothing to me. Todd Phillips directing, again, it's like the guy who made the Hangover trilogy. I don't know,
Yeah.
But Joaquin Phoenix is, like I said about Tom Hardy, Joaquin Phoenix is one of the greatest actors living today. Yeah, he's incredible. So him as the Joker would be the only thing that gets me excited, but it gets me excited in the right way. That I'm really excited just for that piece of the story alone. There's a lot of pieces to this puzzle, but two-thirds of them I don't give a shit about. But Joaquin Phoenix is a great choice.
And another thing maybe to say is that I agree with everything you just said, but this is also a movie that might not be made. DC films in the recent years, regardless of what you think of them, the DC will announce a slate, and that slate that they've been announcing, none of that's been happening. Only a few movies have been happening out of the slates that they've announced. It always changes. So this movie might not even happen. But if it does, the thing that it does get me excited for is Joaquin Phoenix.
I like to take all these announcement stories and all these kind of style of pieces with a grain of salt for sure, just because you don't, like you said, there's slate changes all the time, and not just for DC. It could be any movie that's announced. I'm not 100% there until I see a trailer for it, or you see set footage where for sure they have money in it. It's going. They have plans set in stone, because at the moment, even like the story before this one, you can never be 100% sure, so you don't get too worked up about it.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Now, that would be it for our interesting news pieces, because, there was a lot of stuff that happened in the last week, but I would say those would be, for me, the ones that get me. Now, you seen 50 Shades Freed last night. I want to hear your thoughts on it, because it's not a franchise. I haven't seen any of the movies. I've seen pieces of the first one. I didn't really feel like I didn't want to pay my money to see this, and especially with Black Panther coming out next week, I was like, you know what? I'll save my money that I would see to see that. I'll save that to see Black Panther a second time. Now, maybe I'm unfairly judging because I haven't seen Black Panther yet, but I want to hear your review of 50 Shades Freed.
All right, so up front, I'm gonna spoil the whole trilogy. Just because I don't think anyone really cares. So skip ahead a little bit, about like 10 minutes or whatever. Is that cool if I spoil it?
Yeah, that is okay. I don't think there's going to be any world-changing spoilers that I hear. If anything, if I hear a spoiler, I might be more inclined to see the movie, or movies, I should say.
Okay, cool. So I'll give you a little bit of my time to talk about this trilogy. Okay, so I think if you're going to watch these movies, you should do so with some close friends, and some close friends with a sense of humor. My girlfriend and a couple of friends of ours saw it last night, and each film in the franchise has moments of complete absurdity that is undeniably hilarious. The first one has the line 50 Shades of Fucked Up. It has I don't make love, I fuck. 50 Shades Darker has one of the best, most thrilling helicopter crashes in all of cinema, where the helicopter crashes with one of our leads in it, and then the next scene is them watching a news story of the helicopter crash, just to have him walk in the room right as they're watching it. The scene later. Luckily, 50 Shades Freed actually references the helicopter crash just to get a chuckle out of my girlfriend, myself, and my friends. It's these movies aren't sexy. They're really awkward. There's a lot of missionary pants on fucking, where you don't see any P, you don't see any V. One of them's on their back, one of them's on top. His pants are just pulled past his bottom, and they're porking. They think because they have handcuffs that it's super kinky. But it's just awkward. A lot of it's really awkward. There's a scene where they're putting ice cream. They dragged poor Ben and Jerry into this, and they put Ben and Jerry on each other's chest hair. Well, I guess on his chest hair.
Each other's chest hair. Well, I was
on his
say,
chest
hey.
hair. And there's a lot of licking ice cream off each other. The movie is a lot of arguing and fucking until like the last 10 minutes where there's a kidnapping. And there's a lot of great funny moments. There's so much setup that is never paid off. Characters that they start to build an arc or some story to it, and then it just is never paid off. There's this scene where Christian Grey is teasing her with a vibrator, and he won't let her finish. That feels very symbolic of this whole movie, where they're giving you that feeling, and you're like, what's gonna happen? And then it never happens. Nothing ever happens. They'll just fuck or they'll argue, but nothing will be paid off. It's funny. I think 50 Shades Darker is, of all the three, that's one you have to watch because it's just undeniably hilarious. Like, it is fucking really funny. This one, the first half is funny, and then the second half is, because it's the same thing over and over again, it gets boring. There's a montage at the end of the movie where they show clips from the first two movies and the movie that you just watched, and it is some random scenes. It'll be like Christian Grey working out, and it's why is this the scene they're using to recap their arc of romance throughout the trilogy, and Love Me Like You Do is playing over it. I just couldn't help but think about all the other great trilogies we've had, like Return of the King. I wish Frodo stood there into Sam's lovingly beautiful eyes, and then we saw a recap of, maybe their walks in the forest on the trees with Love Me Like You Do playing over it, or maybe we saw Rachel burning at the end of The Dark Knight Rises. We could have saw flashbacks of Rachel burning, or of Christian Bale leaving Liam Neeson in the river. It's just wacky as fuck. And there was a lot of middle-aged mothers in our theater that were really getting into it. A woman down in our row was crying at the end when you see their baby born. So, I mean, it's definitely a mommy fuck movie. And if you're a mommy that like loves luxury porn, because that's what it is, like you aspire to be Anastasia because she's getting pampered. Another thing, this movie tries to be really woman empowerment, like the first two, like how the first two weren't. This feels like retroactively fixing it, where she's going to boss around Christian and she's going to do this. But if they just turn it around and make Christian demand her to leave work, she's like, fine. Like, he still has her whipped and chained, but they're trying to make it. It's just really weird, and everything clashes. If you're looking for just a weird movie that you could laugh at, it's definitely there. If you're trying to get your rocks off or whatever, it's not a movie you should jerk off to. You're probably better off watching Nymphomaniac. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Weird kidnapping. It's just such a strange movie. It's very strange. You could tell the two leads do not enjoy each other's company. However, I do think, what's the actress's name?
Dakota Johnson.
Dakota Johnson is a great actor. I think she's given terrible material, but I think you can tell that she's trying. She's doing the best she can. The guy, what the fuck is his name?
I got no idea what this
something?
guy's.
Anyways,
I can look it up.
he feels like he's sleeping. He's sleeping the whole movie. He doesn't care. Yeah, just no. He's not good.
I think what I'm getting out of this review is that you would say, take your $12 and go see this movie because it's the greatest cinema you're going to see of the year.
I'm saying yes. If you can bring friends, it is probably the greatest thing you'll see in a theater this year. I'd recommend going to a show with not many people there so you can laugh and have fun and talk while watching it, because that's definitely how it has to be viewed. Because we had a full crowd, but we were laughing at things, but we were trying to be respectful because there's a lot of moms that get down with it. A lot of people getting emotionally involved, surprisingly. So, you want to be respectful, but my God, it's really awkward watching it in a full theater when like he's biting her nipples and he's sticking ice cream in her snatch. It's not something to watch. It's not. It's just it's a really weird environment.
All right, so that and I have a question about this. Then we can move on if you want. Is that I would think the whole appeal of a 50 Shades trilogy or a movie is for it to be like a sexy, type thing. And then you say, and I've heard a lot of people say it's not. How is it not? Because I would feel the whole appeal is for it to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure a lot of people would find it sexy for sure. But the thing is just the two leads, they hate each other, and it makes it awkward. And the music, okay, it's the chemistry between the leads, and it's the really on the nose music. It's music that's going to be dated in 3 years. It's like really poppy or really R&B, and it's very modern, and it's super cringy, and it's really on the nose. You cut out the music maybe and cut out every scene where the two leads converse with one another, and then just make it porn. You're fine watching it if you're like, a mother or a 12-year-old.
A 12-year-old. So you would send your 12-year-old to go see this movie?
No, I'm saying like if you're a 12-year-old or whatever age, you're just getting into porn. This is the shit.
Yeah,
this is the shit that
you
would dip your toes in. It's like you don't see any penetration, but you see boobs and you see butt. It's like so it's not sexy for the music is really off-putting and really uncomfortable, and the leads hate each other. You can tell they're not enjoying it. So yeah, that's why I would say it's not sexy. I have one more question.
Okay. What would you rate this individual movie, and then what would you rate the trilogy as a whole?
Okay, the first one is bad. However, it feels like they're trying something. Look, the leads hate each other in that one too, and but the second and third one become meme worthy. So I'd say, like, if I'm giving you a number out of 10, if you want me to boil it down to a number, I'd say the first one's like a 3, and the 2 and 3 are 1s. If I'm actually legitimately rating them as films, they're 1s. If you're going with friends and you watch them ironically, you'll find that they're higher than 1s and you can enjoy yourself. But they're no good. 3, 1, and 1.
All right. Well, yeah, that sounds like a fun trilogy to go see. I think that's definitely your endorsement. Go check it out, which is totally not. All right. So we'll move on to a movie, which I'll set this up first, is the Cloverfield Paradox. Now, I had heard, some stuff, like a few people before the Super Bowl, that there might be a trailer, and look out because this might be dropping right after the Super Bowl. And I thought, hey, that's a cool little way to market your film. So, Netflix, they're going after something. They haven't had great movies. They've had some good ones, but, nothing to stand out yet. Maybe this would be the first one. To give some backstory, I'm not a fan of found footage movies. However, I'll say that Cloverfield, I didn't dislike it. I'm not gonna take away from the movie because it was found footage. However, it's still, I could never get down with found footage. T.J. Miller in the film I can never take T.J. Miller serious. Everything he says that tries to be serious, I think is a joke just because of his voice. Now, it's a whole nother story. Maybe I shouldn't be judging, him for that. Maybe I should be judging him for other things. Wink, wink. It could be something we get into another time. However, I do think it's a good film. Now, I think 10 Cloverfield Lane, that movie, in my opinion, is a great movie. I think it's far superior from the first one, which I want to hear your thoughts on the first two movies and the whole marketing ploy of Netflix, dropping the trailer and then, hey, right after the Super Bowl, you can watch Cloverfield Paradox.
Sure. Okay. I'll start with the first Cloverfield. I saw it in 2008 in full when it first came out, and I was young then. I was, 11 or whatever it was. And back then, as a child, I thought it was great. But then again, when you're a kid, you think a lot of things are great. I don't know if I've fully sat down and watched it from beginning to end since then. I'm sure I have. I remember scenes. I've definitely watched. I think I've put it on and maybe just went on my phone with it on in the background. So I've kind of passively watched it since then. However, I do think it's a great movie. I don't have much to say about it just because, I haven't really dove into it much lately. 10 Cloverfield Lane I saw in theaters when it was out, and I watched it again on Blu-ray after. I think that movie is great, and I can confidently say that because I watched it recently. I know a lot of people had problem with the last 10, 15 minutes, that they don't think it fit well with the rest. I'm not sure if you've heard criticisms like that before, but I know people I saw it with did not like the last 10, 15 minutes. However, I think that movie from beginning to end is consistently good, actually consistently great. I think that's a strong
I totally
movie.
Agree with that, yeah.
And I think John Goodman is one of his best performances. He's great.
Hell yeah.
And the marketing for all these movies actually has always been, oops, sorry, I just hit my mic. Fuck. The marketing for all these movies has been unique. However, because 10 Cloverfield Lane, the trailer came out like a month before it or something, and you originally, when they had it announced, it wasn't a Cloverfield movie, something like that. And now this one, and they do a lot of viral marketing, they have the website going and whatever, but this newest one took it to an extreme by releasing it the day the trailer came out. So I like that. I like playing with marketing conventions and just promotion conventions for your film.
Yeah,
however, I think
I just want to say real quick, I thought it was a cool thing to do. Now, if it were a theatrical release film, that's a bit impractical to do. Maybe it would work out. But given that it was a Netflix film, I think it was a nice thing. Here's the trailer. There's millions of people watching the Super Bowl, and this movie will be out to watch right after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, I like that. However, I think after watching the film, I realize why they did that.
Yes. But before we go on that, I just wanted to say one thing is I didn't know what most people thought of 10 Cloverfield Lane. I until you mentioned maybe the last 10 minutes people didn't like. I will say I really liked the last 10 minutes. The only thing that for me, I was like, was just the not the I don't know if you want to spoil or not, but I won't. Just like this, not the smaller creature, but that big one. I was like, does that fit with the first one? But I got over it quick. I was like, whatever. I love this movie, and that's not going to take away from my love for it.
Yeah, maybe when we start talking about the Cloverfield Paradox, we can start talking about the monsters in each one and how they connect. Yeah. That might maybe help or not help your thoughts of 10 Cloverfield.
Well, yeah, I don't even think it will because I love the movie. That didn't take away from anything. I guess what we should say, because now we're going to go into the Cloverfield Paradox. We're going to spoil the shit out of this, am I right?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to do non-spoilers first and then spoilers, or just spoil the shit out of it?
I mean, I don't think this is a movie where people, I mean, maybe there's one person saying like, I want experience.
Yeah,
so
fuck it. We may as well spoil it. No, let's fucking spoil it because it's on Netflix, so.
Exactly. It's on Netflix. Okay. You don't got to pay money. I mean, you got to pay money for a subscription, but it's not the $12 go see a movie.
Yeah, and just like a little like heads up, we might get into spoilers from the first two. Just because maybe when we start talking more in depth about Paradox, we might go down. We'll try to avoid it just because. Or do you want to just fucking spoil them all?
Yeah, we might as well. I mean, we kind of. I won't go too much into it, but maybe I'll have a question that you have an answer to that might relate to those ones.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you want to lead it off?
Sure. I'm going to start off with maybe just some pros about.
Okay.
Because I think the movie is weak. However, I think there's stuff that should be praised. The cast, I think, is. I think they're great. I think they're great on their own right, and they're all great in this movie. Especially they're a lot of them are kind of pushed to the side, I guess. There's a lot of characters that they're playing with, so you know that's going to happen. However, I think each one of the cast members is terrific in this film and just on their own as actors. So I think that's something worth pointing out. The movie starts off interesting. I was on board for a little bit, you know, because I want to see how it connects to Cloverfield. I think near the end, near the middle and towards the end, it gets really bad and it falls apart completely. However, I think it starts off strong enough. One thing before I send it to you, Ava DuVernay was pushing on Twitter to watch it. I believe that's who was pushing it. I'm sorry if that's wrong, but I believe that's who it was, to watch it just because it's directed by a black woman. I think films directed, you know, by minorities or whatever, women or, you know, black women in particular you should see them. However, it's also important to recognize that white men can make mediocre to bad movies just the same as black women can make mediocre to bad movies. That's true diversity.
Just as anybody can make a bad movie.
Yeah. I mean, she was promoting it, just watch it because of this. However, I think it's important. Everybody can make great films and everybody can make poor films. So that's true diversity when we're not praising it just because of who made it, but we're recognizing failures and faults and whatever. So I think not to just like bash on the director, like this is their reason this movie's bad. I mean, like there's this team of people. However, I think I just wanted to point that out. That's something other people have been saying. What the Flick on YouTube, who are like my favorite YouTube channel to watch reviews has mentioned that, and I just thought I'd reiterate it just because I think it's an interesting and an important piece of information. Anyways, back to the movie in particular. You can take it from here and let's hear maybe some things you liked about it.
I watched it last night and I really had to think about it because I was busy throughout the week. I couldn't get to it. When I watched it and immediately after, I didn't know what to think until today. I'm probably going to shit on it more than you will because you started off with things you liked about it. I disagree about the cast. I think there are some good actors, actresses in there. However, I didn't believe anything they were saying. I thought it was I couldn't buy into anything they were saying. I thought it was kind of like a goof. A lot of it was very melodramatic, and I did not like the opening. I thought the opening intro was just like, what am I watching here? It was one, like you said, I realize why this is on Netflix and not in theaters. I don't think it was a good movie at all. With that being said, I mean, there is some dumb fun to be had with it. One thing I was disappointed by, and I may get his name wrong, but the cinematographer of the movie, I believe his name is Dan Mindel. He works with J.J. Abrams, along which this is a Bad Robot movie. I believe he did the cinematography on The Force Awakens. I could be wrong, but I do believe he did. I don't think this movie was shot that well. There's a few good shots, but the majority of it I didn't think was that good. The story was okay, whatever. I didn't need it. I didn't care what was going on here, even though knowing this is why Cloverfield happens. I didn't care about the whole Cloverfield Paradox. I thought, and I guess to spoil the ending there, is I could tell when, I forget her name, but when the chick was like, yeah, well, you know, I'm going to kill everybody here because I want to save my world. I seen that coming from a mile away. I felt like it felt like it was trying to be like Alien, except it did not hit whatsoever. I thought it was like, for me, I'm trying to think of what I can take out of it that I enjoyed, and I can't think of it. Maybe more towards the end when everybody's starting to die. To be honest, it was fun. I could have fun. Like, all right, who's gonna die next? That's my fun out of it. I thought the intercutting between I forget the main lead. I forget her name. When you're cutting back to see her husband, I didn't care whatsoever. I was like, why am I seeing this guy? I don't care. I thought was one of the weaker performances of the film. I didn't buy into anything he was saying, and I just thought it was a bad movie.
Okay. I think maybe my attempt at saying positive things led you to believe that I'm lukewarm on this movie. I think it's a bad movie. Also, one sec. Sorry. Before I go into anything, Ava DuVernay, The director of Cloverfield Paradox is a black man. I was misinterpreting my memory of hearing the story about Ava DuVernay tweeting. She was tweeting about the woman of color lead and then the black director, who's a man. So I was just putting them together and calling it a black woman director. So I apologize for that. Just clearing that up. Saying that, back on topic now. I think the movie's bad. It's definitely bad. I stand by that. I think the cast is really good. However, this film has no clue what the fuck it is. You can
totally agree.
You can clearly tell this was not a Cloverfield movie when they shot this. All the Cloverfield references are on a monitor, or they're down on Earth, and all the Earth stuff feels so tacked on. Nothing's paid off. The whole angle with the child that he saves. Why?
Yeah,
there's no point to that.
Right.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work as a movie because for basic, you have to pay these things off, or at least make it party to the point.
Yeah,
But
and especially when you
pointless.
say it's going to be, all right, this is the, I guess, prequel to Cloverfield. I didn't feel the payoff at all. Now, maybe you
not at all.
will have the certain thing to point out, like, hey, maybe this is why it connects, and that's why I should like this, but I did not think anything paid off at all.
No, I agree. I know a lot of people are saying, because this opens the idea of parallel universes and whatever, it plays with that. So it's like each Cloverfield monster, what I've been hearing is each Cloverfield monster from each film is a different reality. However, that feels lazy as fuck. It's just...
Yeah, to me, hearing that, and if that's the case, I'll lean towards that Deadpool 2 trailer. Well, that's just lazy writing.
Yeah, for sure. It's just like, even 10 Cloverfield Lane, I don't believe was originally a Cloverfield movie, and then they added reference to it, because the monster in Cloverfield Lane is not the same as Cloverfield, and they feel very different. Now we have this movie, and it makes no sense, because the monster at the end is way bigger than the monster in Cloverfield. I mean, then again, it could just be a grown-up monster, but it also exists where Earth is already being destroyed. Nothing. It doesn't make sense. The way they're explaining it is it's different realities. However, explain that better. And even if you can, it feels really lazy. The Cloverfield Paradox is no good. It's not a good movie.
And even the whole Paradox thing, it was like, okay, I mean, I don't care. I don't care if you get out of this if you don't. I couldn't care less if they... You know what the ending was? And to put this into context is that I feel like I tend to find some things I enjoy about movies more than I dislike. So for me, I feel like I'm easier to please than most people. A movie that came out last year that I think I can compare this to was Life. It came out, I think, in March. It was a movie I liked. It wasn't the greatest thing of the year, but it was a fun March movie, a thriller, horror type sci-fi thing. And the movie seemed because that movie also was trying to do a little bit of Alien and didn't necessarily success, but it had good parts to it. I felt that movie, the ending was very similar to Cloverfield Paradox. Now I'll spoil the ending for Life, is where one of the leads in there, Rebecca Ferguson, I forget her character's name, but that's the actress. She goes back down. Oh, no, she doesn't. No, yeah. See, I totally forgot.
Yeah, that's the twist.
Gyllenhaal. Yeah, that's the twist. Gyllenhaal goes back down, and then the alien's with him. The ending to Paradox seemed like, all right, now they're back to Earth, but what the fuck? There's a monster there. I felt like Life did it 10 times better than what Paradox did, and I don't even think Life did it
better.
Great. Yeah.
This
that's
movie
what
felt like
really
it was trying to be
reminded me
like
of
that.
Yeah, even for references to 10 Cloverfield Lane, maybe it wasn't supposed to be a Cloverfield thing, but even I think middle part of the movie when I even forget the character's name, but Mary Elizabeth Winstead, she tries to break out, and then the woman comes knocking on that door, and you can tell her face is like deteriorating, her body, and then she was like, "Yeah, don't worry, it just bit me," which is a callback to the first one when I even forget her character name, but the one woman when she gets bit. She, like, when people get bit, they, like, kind of explode. So that was, like, a connection I can get down. It's not too on the nose, but if you look, oh, yeah, that connects there. Nothing in here was like, oh, yeah, I can, other than, all right, there's a big-ass monster that was in the first one that looks, like you said, a lot bigger than what he did in Cloverfield. Could be a different one.
That woman that came to the door in 10 Cloverfield Lane is the same person on who's the news anchor in Cloverfield Paradox.
Okay, see, all right then.
But
okay, you know, one thing, and this shouldn't, 'cause this shouldn't impact me at all, and it really didn't in the quality of the movie. But going back and watching Cloverfield and then watching 10 Cloverfield Lane is T.J. Miller plays Erlich Bachman in Silicon Valley, and then that woman who was, you say, the news anchor also, she was one of the executives in the show Silicon Valley, which were two very goofy characters. So anytime I seen her, I'm just thinking of her in Silicon Valley, and then watching Cloverfield back, all I can think is of Erlich Bachman, and I can't separate T.J. Miller and Erlich Bachman. I know I shouldn't judge something like that now, and when I judge the quality of the movie, it's not because of that, but I had a very hard time disconnecting the two.
That's fair. I wouldn't blame on you for that. They should be able to. I mean, like the actor themselves and the film should be able to work as hard as they can to make that separation there. So I mean, it's not your fault, I don't think. Cloverfield Paradox was incredibly disappointing.
Very, very disappointing. And especially because last week I was like, hey, maybe this would be the first, great. I mean, I know there's been some really good Netflix movies, but not many, not I can count on one hand. And maybe this will be the one. And it totally was not.
No, it's definitely not.
Terrible.
Yeah, it's definitely rough.
And I don't want to just say it's terrible because most people are saying it's terrible. I think it's terrible. I had somebody say hey, you should actually give this a try because I think it's a solid movie. I'm glad this person thought it was a solid movie. Not to take away. If anybody has enjoyment with it, I wish I could have had the enjoyment that anybody else had with it. But yeah, I thought it was a very, very disappointing movie, especially coming after 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is what I think a great movie.
Yeah, I mean, if the masses dislike a movie, you should feel no shame in also being part of the masses and disliking it. And you should feel no shame in liking it. Same with if people love a movie, you shouldn't feel shame in loving it with them, or you shouldn't feel shame in disliking it. So I mean, there's that. If you love Cloverfield Paradox, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You're wrong.
Don't let anybody take away from that enjoyment. But yeah, man, I'm really trying to think of something I enjoyed of the movie, and the one thing, and maybe it's just it's something cheap, but it's when everybody starts to die. And for me, I have fun with that. Who's going to die next?
See, I didn't give a shit.
The thing is, I didn't care about the character deaths. I was just glad to see we're fucking starting to get this shit over with.
Yeah. See, I was just waiting the whole time for some actual confirmation about the monster of the first one, or about something about the first one, because that's all the trailers 10 years ago this happened and here's why, or what. It's something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing poorly, obviously, but that's the idea. And it's not about that.
And even thinking about that, thinking about that, if they're and when the first movie starts and they say particle accelerator, this is another thing maybe I shouldn't think of. I just immediately thought of The Flash. It's a TV show. I do love the Flash. I immediately thought of that, but then are you telling me that this particle accelerator, them in space, them shooting whatever the beam was, so that right there, they're in a paradox, they're in a different universe. But what in there, I want to know, how did that monster get there? Yeah. I want to know that, which I did. Yes. We didn't get the answer to that, did we?
No. It's everything's very vague and very loose. But that does remind me, when you see the shot on TV and it's the one author talking about how, this kind of technology can open up portals to let monsters in from, other dimensions or whatever. And he also says from the oceans. I just thought it was funny that he mentions monsters coming in from, other universes or deeper in the universe, and then also throws in bodies of water on Earth into the same category. That just feels like a connection to the the first Cloverfield, where that was the idea. So I mean, that was just a little ridiculous. I just had a little chuckle about that.
All right, so I guess that's it for a review. I have a follow-up question to the Cloverfield franchise, unless you have anything else you want to say.
No, I could probably bitch about it for a while.
I could bitch about it more, but I feel like what's to get out of me bitching more? Yeah. Maybe it's fun to hear us bitch about it, but for me, I feel like I
hope
bitched
the next
enough.
One's good, and I really hope the next one's good.
Comes to that.
It comes out this year, doesn't it?
That's what I've heard. Apparently, one of the rumors is they've already shot it. I forget what the code name was for this movie that was apparently shot, but they have said that, it's been shot and it will come out this year. That's the rumor. And
all right, that's cool.
And they also said that the deal with Netflix is that they aren't going to be like maybe it could happen where if it is a shit movie and they think, hey, maybe we'll benefit from putting it on Netflix, but they have said it wouldn't be a Netflix film. J.J. Abrams obviously was talking about this to promote this movie. And again, you can take this with a grain of salt because, hey, you know, he's producing the movie. It's his company, Bad Robot. Of course he's supposed to say this, so really what's there to take? But he did mention, and maybe this does something for you, maybe it doesn't, that their plans for Cloverfield 4, and it's what he said, if it happens, which I assume they've already shot it. I kind of do believe the rumor, but could be wrong. So his whole wording was that, hey, if we do this fourth one, it's going to be crazy. It's, you know, and there's not much to take from him just saying, oh, yeah, it's going to be crazy. Crazy in a good way. But does that do anything for you? Because, I mean, the franchise as a whole, for me, they're 2 for 1, so...
Yeah. Well, it depends. Did he say anything like this about Paradox? Because, I mean...
I didn't hear anything of him... Yeah, even from either. The things I read of him doing the promotion for this was nothing about Paradox. I mean, he even dropped a little nugget about Star Wars, which wasn't even anything. He was just saying, hey, I'm excited. I'm going to fly out to Lucasfilm right after this, and I'm excited for you guys to hear about what we have planned for Episode 9. Yeah. So it wasn't really anything about Paradox.
I like J.J. Abrams, and, you know, I respect J.J. Abrams, so I take him for his word, especially if he's given me no reason not to think he's full of shit, because he didn't say anything about Paradox being amazing or Paradox being crazy. So, you know, I have no reason not to believe him. And I think this franchise has proven to be great. So,
yeah. Well, and then I guess this is something we could go into. We can keep it short, but something you'd want to see from the fourth one, especially if he's saying, yeah, it's going to be crazy. Because as much as I love 10 Cloverfield Lane, I would like to see some more exploration of the monsters. So if I would assume maybe if it's going to be crazy, maybe it's something a little bit bigger. What would you want from the fourth one? What's something you would like to be more explored?
I have no expectations, and I don't need to see anything. However, I would just like some consistency. Okay. In that Paradox just kind of threw out the window. It's also taking place during World War II, I believe. So a lot of craziness can just saying? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know that? And there's
I didn't know that.
On IMDb, they have some pictures. I don't know if they're set photos or if they're photos from the movie, but yeah, it looks like a war film. Maybe that's the craziness that comes from it. I think some monsters mixed in with World War II, that could be really cool. So I'm excited to see that.
Yeah. All right. You mentioned last week for people to, you know, if they have any questions, comments, to, let us know. We can talk about it or address anything. And I know there was one comment you wanted to address, and that was from the YouTube channel.
Right. I'm just on the YouTube channel now, and I think there's a few things here that maybe we can mention. First I'll just respond to something that was about my comments last week about the diversity and representation in film. So I last week we kind of got tossed into it out of nowhere. You know, that's how conversations work. It just came up. So maybe a lot of my points weren't really concrete, and maybe they're all over the place. I stand by what I said. It was very similar to what you were saying. However, there was a twist to it. And someone just left a comment disagreeing with me, so I thought maybe I'd just clarify some things just for the record. They were talking about how different races and different genders experience life differently, whether due to social oppression or what standard society sets on them or whatever. That was more or less what the comment was about. A lot of my argument was not about specific characters or specific films. It was just about actors playing roles where the character is not about this societal pressure or whatever. So, like, for example, I'm probably all over the place, so I'll give you an example. Finn in Star Wars, the character of Finn is not about being black and oppressed. It's not about the pressure of society on him, right? So you should be able to relate to that character, no matter what race you are. So, like, maybe something I should have mentioned is, for example, Lady Bird. Lady Bird is very woman-centric, specifically, young women, growing up. That's a character in a film that a young woman would be able to relate to more because it's telling the story about them. It doesn't mean a man can't relate to it because, you know, I see myself in there because it is about growing up. So I see a bit of myself in Lady Bird. However, there's films like that, or Moonlight. Moonlight, I can relate to Moonlight because I understand pain, how, like what I mentioned before. However, that specific culture and those societal pressures that are being put on them for their race and for the community they're lived in is very specific, and that is something that culture would relate to. You know, I just don't think, like, it'd be weird for a white man to say he has to see movies with white men because that's all he can relate to, right? So I'm talking, that's how I look at it. So, you know, Scarlett Johansson in Ghost in the Shell. This was a controversial one. I think the character is not about the character she plays. I believe it's Japanese.
I want to say so, but I will fully admit I don't know that much about Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, no, me either.
Other than just the movie.
Be wrong. So I could be completely wrong. However, that character is not about. It's not about, you know, the pressures of that society or any oppression they're receiving. So that character should, like, yeah, it was from a manga, so people were upset that it was a white actress playing it, which I would never take away from people's, you know, people can get upset about what they want to get upset about, right? That's just going to happen. I'm personally not upset about it, but then again, I'm a white man, so I get why I might not be upset about it. However, that character could have been played by any race in my mind, because that's not what the film was about. That's not what the character's about.
I'll say this is where I somewhat disagree, and I say somewhat only because I don't know the source material that much. Now, I feel if there is a character that has been established in a comic or an anime or whatever it is, or it really depends on a certain character. If you're reading a book and the character in the book is white, or if he's black, if he's Asian, Hispanic, if he's whatever, as if the character's not drawn to that specific race or nationality or whatever, then it doesn't matter. But if this character is really about that race, culture, and I feel like then, yeah, maybe you should stay true to it. It would it would be like, I'm sure this is what it was for some Asian people, that like, hey, what if Star Wars came out and now Luke suddenly was Hispanic? And I'm not gonna be mad because he's Hispanic. I'm just gonna be like, well, it doesn't add up to Star Wars and Empire and Return of the Jedi and everything else. Is that it wouldn't make sense. So I can understand that if you are Asian and you're like, well, what the fuck? You know, it's another white woman in an Asian role. I would like to see some representation for us.
Yes, I get what you're saying. However, I want to jump in there. Switching up Luke's race mid franchise, you know, you're 8 movies and you switch up his race, is completely different than creating one movie for the first time.
Let's say you reboot Star Wars and then that's the case.
There we go. That would be more similar.
Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it doesn't, but it's like Bruce Wayne. If you change Bruce Wayne, I see this is really, because I seen this thing on Instagram where it was talking about this same topic, and I'm really going to butcher this, and especially I would like to shout out whoever's page it was, but it was a thing of there was some outcry of Idris Elba, and I forget what it was, but well, not just Idris Elba, just black actors in roles, and it was saying, the character of James Bond, it doesn't matter if you are black. It's about just being British. Like if you're a British person, then yeah, you can fit in the role because James Bond, that's what he is. So it doesn't matter if Idris Elba is black, because he's British. You know, he's James Bond. But this is really gonna fall apart, because I would really like to hear if somebody's listening to this and they know what I'm referencing, if they could tell me what it is. Because the second part, which is why I'm gonna butcher this because I forget what it is, but it's a certain character that it had to do with being, I believe, black, and it wouldn't make sense if this character was. Oh no, here we go. It was Black Panther. If Black Panther was white, that doesn't make sense if Black Panther is white, because it comes from Wakanda. He's from Africa. It wouldn't make sense for the character to be white, as it would make sense for the character of James Bond to be black, where it wouldn't matter.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to get at. Yeah. And I wish I remembered whose Instagram page this was, because I would really like to shout them out. And when I said that, that was another thing where, like, that is something that is important, should be talked about.
Yeah. No, I agree completely with that. Going into that, I don't care. You know, for example, I don't care if Superman's Asian. I don't care if Superman's Hispanic. I don't care if Bruce Wayne is black. I don't care if James Bond's a woman. The thing with Bruce Wayne is that I don't know if there is a other Batman character that is black, but
but it goes into the character of the person. It's like Spider-Man. Peter Parker has been known to be white, and then you have Miles Morales as black, and there's even another Spider-Man who's Hispanic. But it doesn't. The Spider-Man part doesn't matter. But maybe for some people, the person underneath the costume, it does. For me, I wouldn't care. But for some people, I can understand, because if you have Miles Morales and suddenly people, if there's a film that's a Miles Morales Spider-Man film, and then suddenly he's white, it's gonna be, well, there's already Peter Parker. Why not you do Peter Parker?
To me, I don't think the race makes the character at all. I think you can have a black Peter Parker, and just because he's black doesn't make him Miles Morales. Just that's not who Miles Morales is versus Peter Parker.
See, I agree, but then also I do and I don't, because you set up your material and this character as this is who this character is to where I can understand if you have a disagreement there. So if suddenly we have a white Peter Parker and then a white Miles Morales, I mean, I guess essentially to the point I said, does that matter? Because does the character of Miles Morales really depend on him being black? There might be something in there that states that, but then maybe not. But just as Peter Parker, there's nothing in his character that states he should be white. So, I mean, it's a conversation. I think that it really depends on your personality, I guess, and how you feel of certain things and your outlook.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of, gray areas maybe that, you're not really sure where you land. And it's fine to not be 100% sure. It doesn't make you racist or anything. It doesn't make you an SJW. As long as you have a conversation. Yeah, I think, to me, the characters aren't defined by their race for the most part, unless, the exceptions I listed, or Black Panther, like you were saying. But like when they made the Human Torch and Fantastic Four black,
yeah, it doesn't change.
Doesn't matter.
Much.
It doesn't change anything, right? So, however, I think when it does matter is when you are, maybe casting a white person and saying they're another race. Gods of Egypt with Christian Bale and all those white men in it.
Yeah, totally. And what was that one? It came out a few years ago. It was Aloha with Emma Stone. Yeah, she played a Hawaiian.
She was like half Hawaiian, half Asian of some kind. I remember.
Yeah, there you go. And that is a woman who's. I love Emma Stone as an actress, but come on, she's one of the whitest white people. No,
I think that's completely different. Casting white people or casting any race and calling them another race. It's just like, why not just cast that race? And I get it. I get that you want this box office draw. You want these people who have, this name that you could bring to your movie. But that's I think where when you're casting race, that's the real issue. When you're telling me they're another race, you can cast a black Superman, but don't cast, a white man and say they're black, right? That's not how it works. Yeah. Some movies try to do that, or Jake Gyllenhaal in that one Prince of Persia movie or whatever. That just came to my head. It's just like that. I think that's wrong, and you should cast recently, a race.
Hellboy. So Hellboy that will be coming out next year, played by David Harbour. Now, there's a side character, I believe, was originally, who was cast was a white British guy, I forget his name, but he played Ajax in Deadpool. And the character that he was playing was in the comic or whatever it is, I'm not too well versed in Hellboy, was Asian. And then there was an outcry of, okay, you just casted another white man in an Asian role. Now, the thing with this is that the actor, I just know him as Ajax. Sorry for the name. Maybe you can look that up while I'm talking. He had stepped down and he had seen, I seen this is really something, this is something, I'm butchering my words here, but, it is something culturally sensitive. So I'm going to step down from this because an Asian person should be cast in this role. And ultimately, I do believe that an Asian actor was cast in the role to play this Asian part that was established in a comic, but then it that's to me, that's where I tend to lean from. If your character was established as this, then maybe you should stay true to it, but then it depends really. Does it matter? Because to Black Panther, it matters being from Wakanda, but does it really matter for like a Bruce Wayne?
I'm just curious because you are defending this Asian character, but I'm curious where they recast Superman as maybe a black person. Will you defend that the same way?
That's the thing. I really don't know because I don't know much about this character. For this character, does he have to be Asian? For me, okay, I'll say this. This maybe will take my stand, and my stand can change anywhere. I wouldn't consider myself a social justice warrior, but maybe I'm coming across that way, and maybe I'm coming across as something totally different, but I would say if you have a character who's been around for Well, now, see, I'm going to contradict myself there because I was about to say if you have a character that's been established at something, then maybe, stick that way for like a Ghost in the Shell, Asian, Hellboy. If this character is Asian, then yeah. But then you bring up the point of Fantastic Four. I didn't care that Michael B. Jordan was... It didn't matter to me. It didn't matter that he's Human Torch. So, I mean, I guess it really depends on the character. And I'm not well versed into which character this was. So I can't really say as like with Black Panther, I know this character, not because the name is Black Panther, but just the character of T'Challa. He's from Wakanda, which is supposed to be Africa, and he's a black man. Would be weird if he's white. Wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. See, I'm finding that you're defending. You're fine with taking a white character and making them. You were fine with taking the white, Human Torch and making him black. However, you seem that you were upset with taking the Asian character and making it white. Is that something that you're noticing consciously? Maybe you're scared of, because you're for diversity, of course. You should be. Are you noticing you're scared? Maybe you don't want to come off as racist because maybe you're scared that, keep.
No, I don't think so.
If you want to keep an Asian character Asian, you might want to keep a white character white, but. You don't want to say
that's
that.
Just
is
where
that something?
It's not that I don't want to say it. If I felt that way, I would say, because this is the thing. I'm right in a line, because I don't care what anybody says, because I know myself. I'm in a line to where, with a Human Torch, I don't care.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Is there another Human Torch character that is black? Because to me, when I look at, like, if there's a Peter Parker, he's Peter Parker, so for years he's been white, so, okay, he's white, that's the character. And then there's Miles Morales, who is black, that's the character. There's another Spider-Man who is Hispanic. All right, but that, like, to me, the Spider-Man part doesn't matter. Somebody in a mask. It's the person underneath. If you've established that character, then maybe stick true to that character. But then again, I'm going to contradict myself to your point of Human Torch, to where I'm in the middle of a line. I'm in the middle of a line. Is that where, if I am in a line where I'm contradicting myself this whole time. Yeah,
it's okay. It's something you probably have to wrap your head around for a while to fully understand where you are.
To be honest, I haven't really thought about it that much, and when I do, I contradict myself.
It's okay. I think where I stand is any character can be any race. However, casting off-race people as a different race is weird to me, and I think that's wrong. Ed Skrein plays Ajax, and I do remember briefly this story that you were talking about. I think it's respectable for Ed Skrein or Screen or whatever. Probably not Screen. Ed Skrein, like, it's probably a smart business move of his. It looks good on him, and I'm sure he does feel passionately that, maybe this isn't the right idea. Whether or not I disagree with it is kind of irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. So, that's where I stand on that. But
I guess if you want me to take a stand, if anybody wants me to take a stand, my stand will be get the best, and which is when it goes to directing, writing, producing, whatever role it is, and it doesn't matter if it's film or whatever in life it is. You go for who is the best for that role, whether it's a job in other fields or if it's acting or directing. You go for whoever's going to produce the best product. That's, I guess, where my stand would be.
Yeah, that's fair.
Unless you slap me with the white Black Panther, then I'm going to be like, well, what the fuck? Which
I
don't see that coming anytime soon.
If they're from, this country in Africa and everyone else is black and they're white, then it's weird. So it's just different.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
You're allowed to still say cast the best, person for the role.
Exactly.
And still say you have to be logical. You can't cast, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going. I've already made that point.
I guess there's one thing that I would address from the YouTube comment, which I do believe the person was, I guess, agreeing with me. I won't go to full extent of what I said last week, but the one thing the comment it definitely made me realize is where my thoughts became more concrete, because at first I was questioning myself afterwards. Did I say the right thing? Because, we record this the next day. I remember the things we talked about. I just don't remember word for word what I said. And I remember at the end, I got ultimately to where I wanted to be, to where representation in film is very important. And the whole thing with identification, where I do agree with you, is that it doesn't matter if you were a gay, lesbian, or black and white. You can identify. But the one thing the comment did specify, and I might butcher whoever wrote this, is that a male can identify with a female. Like I mentioned, I can identify with things as Ray, but I'm not going to identify as much as a woman could, because a woman can identify of problems that a woman has to deal with in life. Now, maybe that's not significant to a certain character in a certain film, but it could be depending if it's like you say, like a Lady Bird or
that's what I was
Molly's
saying
Game.
before. I think in Star Wars, Rey being a woman is irrelevant. Finn being black is irrelevant. Irrelevant in the sense that everyone should be able to relate with them, because their problems aren't inherently race or gender related. It becomes, once you get a film about those problems, and that's what it's about, and that's what the character is about, is where you start questioning it a little more, and it becomes, of course you relate to them in a broad sense, in that they're human and they feel pain, right? Of course, but then specific struggles about, a gay person or a black person. Like
I
Star
guess,
Wars and Rey, that's not what the film's about.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty much on the same page. Maybe just like I'm a little bit more to the right than you, but like for the most part, I think we're good.
Yeah, for me,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, there was just one thing I was about to say, but I kind of lost my train of thought there. Okay, yeah, this would be my last thing I'd say, and maybe this will come off in a way it shouldn't. Is where Call Me by Your Name. It's a movie I haven't seen, but it's a story of two gay people that are trying to, I guess, find love. Because I haven't seen the story, I can't really truly say. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, it doesn't matter that they're gay, I can identify as a love story. Totally agree 100%. But I guess what I mean to say here, which would lean more into the point of what this person sent a comment, I can totally identify with a love story, but I wouldn't be able to identify as if I'm a gay person watching that film and understanding what it is like to be a gay person, to come out, as to where I guess that is where within this past week is my thoughts on this have definitely took more of a solid shape and form and become more concrete than when we talked about it last week.
Yeah, no, well, Call Me by Your Name, I haven't seen it either, but I'm sure it gets into, maybe the hardships of coming out, or
and even like Moonlight, kind of like you referenced, like
even Moonlight.
Yeah, like you can identify with some things, but I don't think I could identify as somebody who is in the same cultural and sexual, place as somebody would watching that.
A gay man growing up in that environment would be able to
be able to identify with that than I could. No,
however, it doesn't take away from anyone from any other race or gender watching it and feeling things. That's completely allowed, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying the best to get you in those shoes. So, I want to move on to the next question. There's actually a couple more questions in the YouTube comments here.
All right.
Sorry, that last the comment about our stuff from before was from Kay. There's no more than that. It's just Kay. So thank you, Kay, for leaving us a comment. Next up we have Mackenzie. Mackenzie wants to know what our thoughts on a Netflix original receiving Oscar nominations are.
It's a good question, Mackenzie. I feel like, if it's there was a movie I think a year or two ago. I think Idris Elba was in it. It was
Beasts of
No Nations.
Yeah,
and that was a movie I heard that people were saying, hey, this should maybe be recognized as an Oscar contender, but ultimately I don't think it was. And maybe it wasn't because of the bias. It was on Netflix, but I do think that it does play a role in a bias of, because I don't know everybody in the Academy, but I feel, I tend to feel the stereotype of there are a lot of old people in there, and maybe they just can't get down with it, so it needs to be theatrical released, it has to be this or that, which we're starting to shift out of. But I feel if it's a Netflix original movie and it's great, or a series, and it's, it shouldn't matter if for it to be televised on HBO or if it's on Netflix or if it's on ABC. It shouldn't matter. If it's great, it should be recognized for being great.
I guess my one point is that there are certain rules that the Oscars follow.
Yeah, isn't the Academy you have to have a theatrical release for at least 1 week or something like that?
It's 2 weeks in LA or New York, I believe.
And I do believe Beasts of No Nations did get a theatrical release, did it not? For one of those?
I have no idea. However, I think Netflix and streaming services are the way of the future, and I think the Oscars will definitely start to recognize that down the road.
Yeah,
at the moment,
I think we're gonna be in a place soon where we're gonna have great movies, and no matter what, you're gonna have to recognize it. But not to take away from what you're gonna say, take it away.
Yeah, no, it's just it's an awkward state right now where the rules of the Academy are maybe a little dated, where it has to play in theaters for 2 weeks in those certain cities. So I think, the certain states or whatever. I just lost my train of thought. Anyways, yep. Oscar, just because it's Netflix original doesn't mean it's any less than a theatrical film. So down the road, they're going to start to be appreciated more. So
yeah, and one film, I'm going to pump this until it comes out and watch it be absolutely terrible, and I'm going to have to eat my words, is that I honestly think one of the best Netflix movies is coming out, I believe this year. It's called The Irishman. It's a Martin Scorsese directed movie, and it's got Pesci in it. It's got Pacino in it. It's got De Niro in it. Now, you could say Pesci and De Niro, maybe they haven't been, the best. De Niro was up for an Emmy for a HBO series in 2017. Pacino, he's been away for a while. He's been in films, but let's say the great Pacino's been away for a while. But it is Scorsese. And there is some other cast members in there that are really good. And I do believe in Scorsese to deliver at least a good movie. And I hope that is the one that really gets me hooked. And I hope that's the one that turns it around.
No, yeah, I hope so too. I think that movie, it's going to be good for sure. At least good.
And yeah, one other thing to mention, I do believe that he's going to be using the whole digital de-aging thing to make him look younger. So, that'll be cool. See if it works out.
Yeah, that's always, it's always a little weird. So hopefully, it could be
Michael
good,
Douglas,
it could be bad.
Kurt Russell, it's look
yeah,
good for
those
them.
are two good examples. However, Princess Leia and Tarkin are two examples.
Except that's totally different. With Kurt Russell and Michael Douglas, you had the real person there, as with you didn't have Carrie Fisher there, and you didn't have why am I forgetting Tarkin's name, the actor, Peter Cushing.
Yes, that's it.
So yeah, we got another juicy question there. That was a good one.
I got another question here. It's from Brody. And Brody asks, what scene in any of the Fast and Furious movies did you cry the most to?
Hey, okay. Well, cry. See this? You've only seen one movie, so let's hear the scene you were close to crying to.
If I were to pick one scene that I came close to crying to in Fast 8, probably the scene where Jason Statham's holding the baby and shooting a bunch of fools.
See, that is a good answer. Okay.
Have you ever cried to a Fast and Furious movie?
I will say it came close to it. Some people will listen and say, "Hey, you totally did." Maybe I accentuate. When I goof sometimes. I like to accentuate my feelings. So I'm not someone who cries, but I like to up the ante and say, "Yeah, I've freaking cried a bunch of times." So I'll put this into context. Is that from when I was a youth, I still am a youth, but younger. I was into the Fast and Furious franchise. I did like the first one. I even like the second one. It's a shit movie, but I think it's fun to have. Tokyo Drift, whatever. 4, I liked. 5, I really liked. 6, I liked. 7, I liked. 8, hate that one. So I did have interest in the franchise. Now, I was, yes, a fan of Paul Walker. I did watch a lot of his shitty movies. I enjoyed him as an actor. And when he died, I think I was like... maybe 13 or 14 when he died. So watching the movie, it did get to me. The ending, I was close. I'll say that. But yeah, that's
understandable because it's real life death.
Yeah,
right. That's not the movie being smart or the movie being good. It's just it's your connection because he was a real life person that's dead, and yeah. So, I obviously haven't cried at any Fast and Furious things. I've slept more than I've cried, though, during Fast and Furious movies. But I imagine that's the most of the population.
Do you have any plans to go back and watch, maybe 5, 6, or 7?
I'm curious about maybe 5 4. Onward. I'm curious. That's what I'd say.
All right. I would like to hear your thoughts if you ever do. Check them out. I do have the Blu-ray of all of them except for 8. And Tokyo Drift, so... I'm sure they're on Netflix or whatever, but, they're there if you want to watch them.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe one day, right?
I believe that's all. That's all the questions that I'm seeing that are worth responding to.
All right. Well, I do. Okay. You know what? We had one comment, 2 questions. It's a good start for only our 3rd time. And we got this Twitter page now. Well, I guess we can plug that again. What is the handle for Twitter again?
Jake and Ben Show. That's also our Facebook page.
All right.
And both our episodes just got a dislike each. That's our first dislike.
Oh, my goodness.
7 likes on each, 1 dislike on each. That just came out of nowhere. So that's all right. Dislikes, still engagement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have to. I gotta go now. So
Okay.
good timing.
Wow.
We're gonna.
This is
put
our
a little
longest
bonus.
one, 144. I think this was a good one. I think we're
No,
getting
I
better.
think-
We're on our way.
I think it went well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening to us. Check us out at Jake and Ben on Twitter
And you know
our
what?
Facebook page.
Not to cut you off, but I guess to plug one thing is next week is going to be our first official review. So look out for that, Black
Yes.
Panther.
Yeah, we'll have a separate bonus episode for that one. So it's not going to be like your Cloverfield or our 50 Shades little quick reviews. We'll go more in depth and say more and make it its own episode. So yeah. All right. Is that all, Ben?
That is all. Until next week.
All right. Until next week. Thank you for listening. Check us out. Don't forget to ask questions. Those were great questions this week. Thank you to everyone who commented and who's been engaging with our stuff. We really appreciate it. All right. Bye for now.